Larry Brogan's Tattoo City pizza place. Yeah, Larry Brogan's Tattoo City. Side. What's up?
Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
This is the other side of the shop here. Nice amount of trophies. On Larry's side here, Tattoo City.
Definitely.
What's up, Cody?
Not a whole lot.
You're an apprentice, right?
Yep.
How far in?
Like a year and I think like 6 months, something like that, a little bit less.
Yeah?
Yep.
Under
Larry Brogan.
Tattoo City?
Yep.
Lockport, Illinois. Awesome. What the first part of your apprenticeship entail?
Cleaning, constantly. That was mostly it. That and doing a lot of drawing. Larry has you do a lot of tracing and stuff just to get your hand used to doing single pass lines and whatnot. You know, it's not really the way I sketch, but so that kind of broke you into that. And then I went to like doing grapefruit, tattooing grapefruit and whatnot. And then I tattooed my legs, and then friends and whatnot. It keeps escalating.
Yeah.
So yeah, but cleaning was most of it.
Yeah. Learning all the safety and sanitation. Did you clean a lot of tubes?
Yeah. Fortunately, we switched over to disposable like 4 months into my apprenticeship, so I had like 4 months of scrubbing tubes, and I got off easy.
I'm pretty sure I have more time scrubbing tubes than you probably do then. Yeah. And I'm not even an apprentice. What was the hardest part about your apprenticeship so far?
Trying to make money while being an apprentice, for sure. I worked full-time as a mechanic down the street and did this full-time, so that was probably the hardest, and just being dedicated and really putting forth the effort while not getting paid. So yeah, it was rough at the beginning, but it worked out.
Yeah. And now you're tattooing people, but you're still technically an apprentice.
Yeah, so like I charge less than everybody else. It takes me a little bit longer to do the same tattoo. It might take one of the other guys. So just while I'm in the meantime, I'm a little bit less paid than everybody else. But yeah, I'm on to customers and everything, so it's pretty good.
Great. So how much longer till you get to call yourself a full-fledged tattoo artist?
Well, I guess that's up to Larry. There's been no date assigned, so usually with him it's like 2 years. So I started last October, so hopefully this coming October will be it.
She got the hard part done today, all around the armpit, inside.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, she's such a bitch.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I remember that in her arm. That hurts.
So I figure next time it'll be a lot easier for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys,
when I was 9 years old, my grandparents asked my mom and dad if they could take me on a vacation out to the West Coast, and that was in the 1960s. And at that time, the accepted mode of travel was Route 66, and so that was the way we went. And I was in the 3rd grade, I think I was. Yeah, I was in 3rd grade, and I sat in the back seat, and it had a lifelong impact on me. Just looking out the window and going through all the states, through Illinois and Missouri, all the corn states, and then as the landscape transitioned into arid desert and then the mountains and traveling into California, I was literally mesmerized. In fact, my grandparents both kept making comments about how I never talked. I wasn't saying anything because I was in awe, and my eyes were as big as saucers, and I just looked out the window and I couldn't believe that there was this big world out there. I'm 3rd generation Navy, so I knew early on that I was destined at some point to get a tattoo, because my grandfather was in World War II, my father was in Korean War in the 50s, and they both had a lot of tattoos, and I just knew at some point that, you know, I was going to follow their lead. And so I went into the military. I was in for a total of 6 years in about 23 different countries, and every time my ship pulled into a port, I went right for the tattoo parlors. And for those 6 years, all I saw was sailing ships, bluebirds, and Yosemite Sams. And it was like, you know what, my gut told me that isn't what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted. I knew I wanted a tattoo, but I had the good sense, good fortune in my mind to not pull the trigger and just get something for the sake of getting something. So I didn't. So here I go through 6 years, all these ports and all these tattoo shops. And I've seen tattoos in places most people don't get to see tattoos, being on ships. And so I passed on it. And so that whole thing went dormant for the better part of 20 years after I got out of the military. And but the Route 66 thing was always there. The tattoo thing was always there. And then, like I say, about 20 some years after I got out of the military, I just started thinking about tattoos again. And so one day I was out on my motorcycle, and I pulled into a Harley-Davidson shop in one of the suburbs in Chicago here, and I didn't know they were closed on Mondays, and it was closed. I pulled in, I was getting ready to pull out, and another fella on a motorcycle pulls in on a 1990 Fat Boy, which is the first year of that motorcycle. It's a significant motorcycle for people who know them. And so I obviously recognized the bike right off the bat, and you know, he didn't know the shop was closed either. And so this was, I'm going to say, mid-90s. And so we struck up a conversation, and he said to me, he says, and I don't remember how the tattoo thing came up, but he gave me his business card. And he said, my name's Larry Brogan. And he said, I just started a shop a year ago out in Lockport. Wow. Gave me his card. And so I took it, put it in my pocket, didn't think much of it, and came home, put it on the kitchen counter, and the next interesting thing happened. My wife picked it up, and she looked at it, and she says, you know, I grew up with a Larry Brogan at 63rd and Western in Chicago. And if you know my wife, she's not very shy, amongst other things. And she took the card and called the number and said, are you the Larry Brogan from 63rd and Western? He goes, yeah, who's this? And she goes, this is Robin Toole. Found out they grew up since they were 5 years old.
Wow.
In the same block. But I got to tell you, that's not a reason to pick an artist. Okay? At all. And but what that prompted was, in earnest, I started researching, and I started hitting all of the tattoo shops in the Chicago land area and researching for an artist. And all I wanted was just one simple tattoo. As we all, that's how it starts, right? And that's all I wanted. So I started going to all the shops. I stopped at Larry's shop here, where we're at, and something interesting started happening. What I experienced at that time, I don't know how it is now, because I don't go in too many other shops, but I started noticing these other shops, in order to make themselves look better, they criticized other tattooists and other shops, and that really left a bad taste in my mouth. And a couple things I observed was Larry never put down other shops, and then when I went to these other shops, and while they were, tearing up and criticizing other businesses, I asked them what they thought of Larry Brogan, and they got quiet, and they never said anything. So that was a sign to me that these guys had respect for him. And based on that part of the research of looking into, finding an artist, I decided to go ahead and let Larry, give me my first tattoo. Then it came to me. I thought, I'm going to get the whole route tattooed on my body. Okay, and I'm going to have navy pier on my left wrist, and I'm going to have all 8 states on my upper body, and it's going to continue across my back and end up on my right wrist at Santa Monica Pier. So I'm going to have the entire route tattooed on me. And so once I thought of that, I already had a library of Route 66 books at home, so gathered them all up, a whole armful of them. I came to the shop, dropped them on Larry's desk, and I says, we're going to pick out all these icons, and we're going to put together this project on a grand scale. And so he was very enthusiastic about it, and in my mind, I had an image of an asphalt ribbon that just traveled across, and that's where the artist comes in. And Larry said, that's not going to work at all. It's not even going to be close to work. And that's when I relinquished. Okay, I picked the icons I wanted. I picked the route follows the correct path from Chicago to LA, and I chose all these icons from each state, and I says, you figure it out. And it took him probably the better part of a year to draw it, and it was amazing because he had taken contact paper and cut to fit my arms, and it was amazing the surface area that entails, and so he drew it all up, and like I say, it took him about a year to do that, and we were going to start it at a local convention in Chicago, Ink and Lincoln, and that was going to be the first session. And he had taken the stencil and transferred it to the thermal, what's it called, the thermal?
Yeah, the thermofax paper.
Yeah, the thermofax paper. And when he put it on my arm and brought the seam together, it didn't match. It was like way off, a couple inches off. And he says, I'm going to have to cut out each one of these things individually and place them on my arm, which he did. And so he had the stencil on my first arm here. It took 6 hours to do that stencil, and there was no time left to do any tattooing after all that work. So then we realized this can't be done at a convention. We need to take it up at the shop. And so that's how it started. And he blocked out 1 day a week for 6 months. So every Tuesday for 6 months. Took him 6 months to do this arm.
Yeah, let's see.
And
how long did you have total in your pieces so far? Do you know? Around 400 hours, you thought?
Yeah, just under. Well, I have a diary, so I kept track of each session. And
that's smart.
So here's Navy Pier. There's.
All right.
You can see the Ferris wheel that's on the pier.
Okay. See some Illinois in there.
There's a Picasso, downtown Chicago.
Okay.
Here's downtown Chicago. Water Tower, Sears Tower, Hancock Center, Amico Building, That's Buckingham Fountain. I can't see back here.
We've got the girl with the hamburger plate, or
Yep.
cheeseburger plate,
Mm-hmm.
and the Munger Moss Hotel.
Yep, that's in Lebanon, Missouri.
A sweet old car there. Oklahoma. See Oklahoma in there.
This is Lucille's. That's an old gas station in Hydro, Oklahoma. That's the Corvette and the truck are in front of her gas station.
All right.
This is still in Missouri. That's Murphy's Restaurant in Missouri. Old gas pump. My favorite car, 55 Chevy.
Oh man, mine's a 57 Chevy. Sorry.
That's okay. And this theater, this drive-in is in Springfield, Illinois. And you can see what's playing on the marquee. Psycho.
Nice.
And that's Janet Leigh in the shower.
All right.
And then, so you have Illinois, Missouri, Oklahoma, and then, of course, the biggest state is Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. And the focal point of my back is the Cadillacs in Amarillo that are buried. And so my entire back is Texas.
Oh wow. This piece always amazes me.
And you can see the big Texan. That's the home of the, how big is that steak? 72-ounce steak. It's free if you eat the whole thing. And some other hotels. This location right here,
Yeah.
Midpoint Cafe, that's the geographical center point of Route 66. If you can see the mileage, the mileage is the same in both directions.
Okay. 1159 miles
Yep.
to Los Angeles and Chicago.
Yep.
And that's you riding the bike.
Yep. Riding one.
Because you've gone a few times. You've ridden Route 66 a few times, right?
Very many times. And mostly on motorcycle.
Okay.
And so after Texas, the next state is New Mexico. And you've got the Blue Swallow, which is in Tucumcari, New Mexico. And there's a 50 Mercury in front of that. And then this is my grandfather.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
My family started a Standard Oil station in 1950 on Route 66 in Chicago. And he's the one that started it. That's my mom's father.
That's awesome.
And then from there we go to Arizona. And then I've got a 59 Etzel. And you can see this fella in there, that's Alvis. He's driving this 59 Etzel and he's pulling this Airstream.
Wow.
That Airstream trailer. Travel trailer.
Okay.
And again, that's Arizona. And then we go into California. And that's the home of Bob's Big Boy. It's also the home of the first McDonald's in San Bernardino.
I did not know that.
People from Chicago think the first one's in Des Plaines, Illinois, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's in San Bernardino. I got a 32 Highboy also. And then here's the pier. That's where the route unofficially ends, Santa Monica Pier, Santa Monica, California. And there's a Woody with a surfboard in it and girls surfing in the land of milk and honey.
Yeah, that's great.
And then just a week ago we finished the chess piece.
I was here when you guys were first talking about that drawing last September.
Yes, because that's when he started it in September.
Huh?
And this is this is the first year of the Knucklehead engine. It's a 1936 EL Harley Davidson, nicknamed Knucklehead, and that's the focal point of the chess piece. And then Underneath, of course, is the Route 66 shield. And the banners, the Mother Road, Chicago to Santa Monica.
Great. Are you going to continue?
I think
More
so.
tattoos?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You can't say no at this point.
No, I'm beyond committed now. So that's basically the project. And yeah, I can't say that it's finished because people who know tattoos know that that's never true.
Very true. Thank you so much, Jim.
Sure, no problem.